Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool to find the right size for your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you for hanging around with us. We're going to talk about amending your soil. Well, first, we're going to talk about how do you know if you need to amend your soil, and then what to do in order to amend your soil, Holly.
Well, you typically will know if you need to amend your soil is if you are having problems, whether that be something like your plants are looking yellow, or you're not getting enough fruit, or your roots are sad.
Or the soil is very, very densely compacted, and it's difficult to keep the soil hydrated because it's cracking so much because there's not enough organic material in it. You water the plants, and all your plants are still looking stressed because they can't absorb that water because the water won't. The soil is almost hydrophobic, which is it's repelling the water because there's not enough material inside of it in order to absorb that moisture.
Right. So those are definite signs. And so you want to add something to your soil, which would be the amending part. And we've done this in our before we had raised beds. We did this in our ground garden.
We will do this with the raised beds as well.
Right. But I remember one time you went through and you dug down like 2 feet.
Double digged.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. That's not
amending.
That's not amending, and it's kind of not recommended based on what author you read. Mm-hmm. But it double digging. Yeah, you remove the top foot and then you dig down another foot and then you loosen that up and you throw the top foot back on top of it. So, okay. So let's say we know we need to amend the soil because we have all the telltale signs. The plants are stressed. It's not absorbing the water as it should, like, good compost would. It's kind of rolling off. You see that there's a lot of cracks in the soil, a lot of different things and the plants are not as strong or as vibrant in color as they should be. So some people may decide or may think, okay, I'll just go in there, pull the plants out and till that soil to loosen it up. That's not necessarily the answer to the solution because, you're going to loosen the soil up now, but it's going to be back the same way. You haven't added anything to it. You've just fluffed it. And once it rains and the winter occurs and everything, and you don't cover it over the winter, it's going to get weathered again. It's going to get compacted again. So we need to add something to it. Some people will add what, Holly?
So you can add your own compost. Say you have compost that you've composted.
That would be what you would do.
You can.
Well, here's the other. If you've done your own compost
mm-hmm.
and you're going to add it to your garden, is it a hot compost, which would probably have killed most of your weed seeds, or is it a cold compost, which just naturally broke down the materials but didn't kill the viability of those seeds off? So if you was to introduce it back into your garden, raised beds or containers or ground, you're basically planting new weed seeds for your garden.
Right. And so that is something to keep in mind is that if you are cold composting, you don't want to amend your soil with this because you could introduce the weeds.
You will. You will introduce.
But if you are hot composting, then that's okay. So you can add your own compost. You can add aged manure. And can you explain aged manure?
Aged manure is the animal has kicked it out the back end and it sat there for 6 or 8 or 12 months and it went from manure to compost to a soil consistency. Now, based on the type of animal, based on the type of manure, you can add fresh manure from some animals. Other animals, you have to wait for it to completely age. Now, if you're getting your compost from your own animals, many of you are in areas where that is very, very accessible. You still want to be aware of what the animal has consumed, because if they have or you have sprayed your fields, or you have hay or grasses that has been sprayed with a persistent herbicide, and that persistent herbicide kills everything except for the grasses, and the animal eats it, which the animal is not affected by that herbicide, it goes to the animal, goes through the back end and into the compost pile and breaks down, and in 8 months you've got beautiful black compost. However, that persistent herbicide is so potent that it is still active even in the soil form that kills your broadleaf plants. Same as weed and feed in your yard with the grass clippings. You take that compost, which looks beautiful, put it in your garden, and your tomato plants, your beans, your potatoes all start getting deformed because that active persistent herbicide is so potent that it's altering and messing it up and it's killing your plants. So you want to be aware of the whole realm of where the grass came from, what the animal ate, and all this stuff. Joe Lample, host of PBS's Growing a Greener World, he's been a guest on this program multiple times, and we've talked about, it's called Killer Compost. And if you want to know more details, and he did an episode on this on his PBS program about Killer Compost, and he put it in his raised beds. He saw the effect of it and then had to remitigate the soil over a period of time, doing naturally. And it was a very eye-opening experience. He knew what this was, and he knew it could happen, but he was very eager in order to get his raised beds filled. So he went ahead and used this compost, which was the manure that was the grass, and had a problem. And it took him a couple of years in order to get it back where it should have been beforehand. So you want to know the source. So if you're going to go with that, be aware of the source. We like to use plant-based compost if we purchase a compost, simply because we know that there's a much less likely chance that there's going to be an issue with it. We don't have to worry necessarily about the herbicides.
It's just what we prefer, and that's okay.
But we want to make you aware that this does exist.
Well, yeah, and some people have animal compost readily available.
And use it up.
Right? Like,
but it's got to be aged, otherwise it will burn the plants. Even if they haven't ate any, grasses like we just explained. Right. You've got to let it turn into soil before you can use it. Otherwise, you might as well just hit the garden with a blowtorch, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be so high nitrogen that it's going to almost kill your plants, if not kill them. Right.
So you can add, and then also the plant-based is a lot of times like leaf or like organic matter, whatever, if it's a plant-based compost. You can add leaves. So your trees around you are giving off these amazing, free, awesome resource, which are the leaves. And you can add those to your soil. They are so beneficial for your soil. They break down. We use them as mulch. We just love leaves. So,
and did we say they're free? They're free.
They're free. Yes. Uh-huh.
And if your neighbors have done their planting right, the wind will kindly blow them into your yard, and that'll save a lot of work from going over there and picking them out of their yard, because we've done that.
We're not above that.
Yeah.
No.
When it's free and it's just a few extra, it's like getting a small with free refills. A small with free refills is really a large with just a little extra walking.
That's like your favorite thing to say sometimes. Okay, so you can add leaves. You can also add, and I would also add, coffee grounds. Now you say, whoa, how much coffee are you drinking? And I don't know if things have changed. You'd have to call your local coffee shop to find out. But with, distancing, what have you. But they should be able to still provide you coffee grounds. In the past. You can go to your local coffee shop, you call ahead, and you say, I would like some coffee grounds for my garden. Can I bring you a bucket? And a lot of times if you're willing to bring them a bucket, they're willing to hook you up with some coffee grounds.
And you can incorporate the filters into that coffee, into the beds as well. You don't have to remove the coffee filters. Just dump them all in. And you can also use it in your compost pile. It's considered a green material, and it works very, very well.
I mean, I go through like 5 pounds of coffee a month, but I don't think that's enough to fill up a 5-gallon bucket.
And you want to work it into the soil, because if you just throw it on top, it's an organic matter, but it loses the 2% available nitrogen that it contains. And you really want to get all the benefits that you possibly can out of the coffee grounds, the used coffee grounds.
Right.
Doesn't make your soil acidic, because that's been brewed out, so don't worry about that. Just go ahead and mix it in your soil.
Yep. So, now if you're having issues and you're not sure what the issue is and you want to get a soil test, we would highly recommend that. Soil test will tell you, what the issue is, what you're missing, whatever, and then you could amend your soil.
What you're missing or what you have too much of, a surplus, it will break down the details of what's going on beneath the soil, because you can't look at the soil and go, well, that tomato plant is showing that. It kind of gives you a little guideline, but you can't go, well, I've got X% of this and that. You have to get a soil test. Use science to our advantage here and see what is actually going on. So you can make fewer moves, make them count, and get the most out of what the garden can provide for you.
Right. So that is definitely something that you'd want to look into.
And what are some problems that you may be having? Well, we just covered a bunch of them here. So don't just assume that, oh, it's just an off year, it'll get better next year, because that doesn't work. Never have we ever gardened and said, well, it didn't work out good this year. Next year it'll be better, and next year was better, and we didn't do anything. That's not how that
never
works.
happened?
No, it's never happened. No. So you've got to make a move, and you got to make the right move, and it's the only way to make the right move is to have the right information, and a soil test will provide that to know how much nitrogen you need to add, or how much potassium you got too much of, or whatever the case is. Definitely make it worth your effort. If you're going to put all this time and effort into the garden, work at it and make sure you can do the right moves and make the most out of it.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.